If Archbold Biological Station was a superhero, its power would be long-term data sets. I'm talking about natural history observations that span decades. For example, right behind me is Archbold's weather station. At this spot since 1931, every day we've been recording the weather. Now, I have to admit, I've always found this site a little bit mysterious and haven't really understood what all these different instruments and structures were about. So I asked our land manager, Kevin Main, to come out and show me how it all works.
Weather data is collected every morning. I come over at 8 a.m. and I grab my pencil and my data sheet and I fill in the temperatures, the high and low temperature, the current temperature, the soil temperatures. I measure the rainfall if there was any rain, and the barometric pressure.
This first structure here is where they check soil temperature. They record the temperature of the soil at 1 inch, 2 inches, and 6 inches underground. Then they're off to check the temperature and the barometric pressure. They have to make sure to reset the temperature gauge in here so that they can see the low and the high over the next 24 hours. This strange looking structure right here is for collecting rainwater. And the metal pieces that come around it are a wind guard protecting the centerpiece here. This instrument I really did not understand. It turns out it's for weighing water. And it's not something that gets checked every day. So I asked Kevin about it and he opened it up for me. I could see it was filled with water with this strange film on the top of the water. I thought maybe something was wrong. He explained that, no, it's actually oil they put in there to keep the water from evaporating. These days, we also have electronic equipment that updates us every 15 minutes with weather data. But still, we record by hand every day and send that information to the National Weather Service, which we've been doing since 1969. After showing me around, Kevin told me about what it's like to check the weather here at Archbold.
One memorable event was coming out here one morning and opening the door to the shelter. And between the door and the frame, a scorpion was hiding out. And I didn't notice it. I put my elbow down to start recording the data, and it stung the tar out of my elbow.
I've been talking about weather, but what is weather and how is it different than climate? Weather is the day-to-day condition of the atmosphere. Like, is it cloudy out? Is it raining? What's the temperature? And climate is the long-term pattern of weather in an area. For example, in the desert, you can still have a rainy day. That's the weather that day. But the climate of a desert is that it's dry, even if it sometimes has rainy days. What's the climate in Florida? It's a subtropical, humid climate. Subtropical means that we're near the equator, but not that close. So it's warm or hot a lot of the time, but it gets cold as well. And humid means there's a lot of moisture in the air. Those things together mean that if you're here at Archbold Biological Station working outdoors, there's a good chance you'll be sweating. How much rain do we receive at Archbold? Well, check this out. Here's the average annual rainfall here, 135 centimeters. That's about 53 inches per year. But this is the average. Every year is different. If we go up here, we can see in the year 1953, we had a lot of rain that year. We had over 6 feet and 4 inches. If we go down, our lowest annual rainfall since the early 1930s was in the year 2000. We had 2 feet, 3 inches of rain in the year 2000. There's a lot of variation here. 55 inches of rain a year, that's pretty good. If this was a desert, you'd have hardly any rain. If there was a jungle, you could have twice as much or more than that. But as you can see, there's a lot of variation. The other thing about the rainfall at Archbold is most of that comes during only half of the year. The rainy season is mid-May through mid-October. Most of that rain falls. And then the other half of the year can be a drought sometimes. Imagine if you were a plant or an animal surviving out here, and half the time there's lots of rain and even floods or hurricanes. And then the other half of the year, it's a drought. At Archbold, our researchers study ecology. That means not just the living things, but the non-living things like weather and soil, and how they all interact together. So for example, knowing about the weather from year to year, and knowing about the times that certain flowers bloom every year, if we look at it together, we can see how the weather affects that. Or we can look at data on gopher tortoises and Florida scrub jays and see how they are changing and reacting and adapting to weather as it changes throughout the seasons, and maybe even over long periods of time.